Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Liz Doyle with Take Action Minnesota, and I'm here today. Yeah, it's Doyle, D-O-Y-L-E. Here today with the Save GAMC coalition. We're a coalition of over 40 organizations here in Minnesota that have been working to preserve health coverage for the lowest income Minnesotans and reform the general assistance medical care program. The Minnesota legislature on Thursday of last week voted overwhelmingly in support of a bill that would redesign the general assistance medical care program, receiving 125 votes in the House, in the Minnesota House, including 38 Republicans. The legislation was the product of months of deliberations between senators and House members, Democrats and Republicans, trying to solve this very concrete problem of 70,000 people here in Minnesota that are going to be losing their health coverage as of April 1st of this year. The reason we're here today is Governor Pawlenty, only hours after that legislation was passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, made the decision to veto that legislation from a fundraising trip he was doing in Washington, D.C. We're here to talk about this issue being about people, not about politics, about the fact that this is a great example of the legislature able to solve real problems with real bipartisan support, and hear from individuals who are going to be impacted by the governor's decision to veto this legislation. We're also here to urge the legislature, as they're going back into session Monday of next week, to stand by their vote, to continue to support health coverage for low-income Minnesotans, and to vote yes to override Governor Pawlenty's veto. I'd like to first introduce Susan Wick, who is a resident of White Bear Lake, a constituent of Representative Carol McFarland, one of the Republican legislators who voted in support of this legislation on Thursday.
As Liz said, my name is Susan Wick, and I do live in White Bear Lake. I'm a retired White Bear Lake school teacher, and since there's no mics, I'm going to try to use my teacher voice. I'm a parent and also a very proud new grandmother. I've been following the fight to restore general assistance medical care for many months. White Bear Lake is a caring community, and we value and care for all residents in the community. People in my area care about all Minnesotans. Yes, I am a constituent of Representative Carol McFarland, a member of the Minnesota House who represents the White Bear Lake area. I'm proud to say that my Representative Carol McFarland voted 2 days ago to support general assistance medical care in Minnesota. Thank you, Carol. Program provides access to care for 70,000 of the poorest and sickest Minnesotans. Representative McFarland joined 124 other state legislatures in this vote, an overwhelming show of support for GAMC. The GAMC bill offers a real solution to a real problem in the lives of real Minnesotans. I was shocked and appalled to learn Governor Pawlenty then vetoed the GAMC bill only hours later. Thousands of miles away, it's not here now, in the middle of his latest political fundraising trip, the governor took health care away from the poorest people living in this state. He might be on Meet the Press tomorrow morning, but I'd like Governor Pawlenty to come out and meet the Minnesotans, the people who are here today, whom he vetoed from his D.C. hotel room. This issue is about people, not politics. Minnesotans have been clear. We want to protect health care for the poorest among us. Our state legislators, like Carol McFarland, have been listening. They voted to support GAMC because they know it's the right thing to do, in their heads and in their hearts. Now, they must do it again. Carol, I'm asking you to join with other elected leaders who must stand up for the poorest Minnesotans and sustain your vote against the governor's veto. We live in Minnesota, not Washington, D.C. It's time for the legislature to put Minnesota first and vote to override the governor's veto on GAMC. Thank you and stay strong.
Good afternoon. My name's Grant Stevenson. I am the pastor of St. Matthew's Lutheran Church here in St. Paul and Spirit of Truth Ministry. I'm also the president of the Isaiah organization. And we are standing here in front of the governor's house. Where is he? He's not here. The governor has decided he can literally phone it in for the rest of his term as governor. And what's worse, what he's phoning in is pushing tens of thousands of people, including my aunt, off of basic medical care. There is something seriously wrong with this picture. Something seriously wrong with what's happening here. We had a bipartisan group of legislators here in Minnesota vote to push this legislation forward, and now it's being vetoed from Washington, D.C. We need to be appalled by this.
That's right. We are.
We're standing at a crossroads in this country. We're making decisions about who we're going to be as Minnesotans and as Americans. We're making decisions about how to balance a 1.5 or maybe next year a 4 or 5 or $6 billion deficit. We're making hard decisions about that. Are we going to do that on the backs of the poorest that we have in this state? No! It's impossible that we're thinking this way. I tell you, we are standing at a crossroads for who we are going to be as a people. Now lately the governor's been talking a little bit about God. I think about that too, although I notice he talks a lot more about God when he's at the CPAC convention in Washington than when he's here in Minnesota. I'd like to have that conversation with him. I know that standing here today we have people from many different faith traditions, but one thing that we all hold in common is that we look around this world and we understand that the first thing we can say about God is that we in Minnesota and we in this country are deeply blessed. Even in the face of a recession, the wealth that we have in this state and in this country stands alone by world standards.
Amen.
Even in the face of a recession, we are deeply blessed. Cutting off general medical assistance, cutting off aid to those who need it the most, makes a mockery of the blessings that we've inherited and that we enjoy. Cutting off general medical assistance spits in the face of the one we worship, the one we say we will follow. Spits in the face of the one who says, I look out for the least of these. Spits in the face. How can we stand with any integrity and move forward as a state, balancing our budget on the backs of the ones who have been left behind the furthest? It's wrong. It's wrong. Let today be a new day. Let us begin again to define who we're going to be as Minnesotans and as Americans. And thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Cassie Pashu. I was born and raised in Oakdale, Minnesota. I went to Tartan High School in Oakdale. Oakdale! And then I had a career in accounting, working with companies like Mills Fleet Farm and other Midwest stores. I lost my job in 2005. I had also been married for 15 years. I have 2 young boys. My husband and I separated in 2006. I divorced in 2007. I worked for a short time at Centerville Elementary as a paraprofessional. By October 2007, we lost our beautiful home in Anoka County. That same year, I began dulling my emotional pain by drinking. After 18 months, I received care, and I'm happy to say that today I am 17 months sober. I began receiving general assistant medical care about a year ago. With access to immediate health care, I was able to honestly address some mental health issues.
concerns like depression and anxiety that had gone untreated my whole life. I am now in therapy. I take 3 medicines a day. Last fall, GAMC helped when I had a severe dental issue. A large abscess formed under my chin, which I jokingly told the doctors when they told me they'd have to make a slice under my chin that it would ruin my modeling career. So I had 2 surgeries. I was hospitalized for 5 days. Further complications occurred, and 6 months later, today I am still taking antibiotics to fight a staph infection. Currently, my income is $101 a month. That's what's left after half of my $203 general assistant income pays for my stay at Ascension Place, which is a sober transitional housing program that supports me and encourages me. Having to pay a premium and co-pays would be an incredible hardship to me. I would be in financial ruin right now if I had been on Minnesota Care when I needed dental care. I will not use GAMC forever. I'm starting Twin Cities Rise next month, and I plan to return to business accounting. Like a lot of people, I have needed GAMC as a bridge until I'm able to get back on my feet. My boys have been with their father for 18 months. I see them all the time. They're doing well. A lot of love there. My goal is to be financially independent like I was, to own my own home, and to have my boys' bikes in my garage. I voted for Tim Pawlenty in 2006. I had no idea back then that he would take health care away from Minnesotans right when we need it the most. I like to believe that elected officials will make the best decisions on my behalf. Now, I don't think that's true anymore. It makes me angry that Governor Pawlenty wasn't even here in town when he decided to veto my health care coverage. I think Governor Pawlenty is spending a lot more time these days thinking about what the people in DC care about instead of what we need here in Minnesota. I want to thank all the members of the Minnesota legislature who voted to protect my health care on GAMC. I want to trust them to keep to their word and vote again to support GAMC. My vote depends on it. Thank you for your time. God bless.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is David Sculverstead. I grew up 2 blocks from the state capitol. I served our country. On Thursday, I watched the House hearing on GAMC. Stood with my friend James Beatty, fellow combat veteran. Dozens of other veterans who have served this country and used general assistance, Medicare, to address our health concerns. For some, GAMC is a bridge until VA benefits come months or even years later. For others, we live nowhere near a VA facility. We don't have transportation. Our VA benefits don't cover all our needs like glasses or teeth. So instead we rely on GAMC. Legislators gave us a standing ovation to us veterans who came to watch GAMC vote on Thursday. For some of us, that was the most recognition we've received since we came home from the war 40 years ago. Brought tears. Legislators voted on GAMC. I was proud and relieved so many of them voted to protect health care for people like myself and James. As a young adult, I went to Western Illinois University. I was a political science major and a psychology minor. I was a member of Phi Mu Alpha fraternity and Inter-Hall Council. As an adult, I was in the restaurant business for 21 years. I was also a medic, trained to advance first aid injured. Later, I became sales manager of a 30,000 square foot furniture store. In more recent years, I was the general manager of a major motel in the Twin Cities. I lost my job in April 2004. In January 2005, I shattered my left leg in a fall. When I was brought to the hospital, I was immediately put on general assistance medical care. Care for my leg was $47,000. Last September, I had an angiogram done at Regent Hospital. The process was $20,000. I'm now on 7 medicines a day for my heart. And I'm supposed to take 2 more, but I think that's a bit much. I gotta watch the clock with all the medications. Right now I stay in shelter at the Union Gospel Mission. Beds are issued on a lottery basis. If I don't get a bed, I have to try to get a bed at the Dorothy Day Center and sleep on a mat on the floor with over 200 other men and women. Fortunately for a guy staying in shelter and sleeping near me, I used my training as medic to save his life when he had a heart attack. If that guy had housing, if I had housing, that would help our health a lot. Nowadays I use GAMC for my blood pressure medicine to regulate my heart rhythm, prevent buildup of cholesterol in my arteries. I see a doctor once a week. Having health care through GAMC has meant I'm still alive talking to you right now. I can't afford to lose GAMC. I earn $203 a month. That's the total. That needs to cover food, medical expenses, housing, bus fare, everything. There's no way I would be able to even pay the co-pays for my heart medications or keep going to the doctor without GAMC. I protected this country. But in my moment of need, Governor Pawlenty decided not to protect me. Last Thursday night, I was getting ready to go to sleep on a mat on the floor at the Dorothy Day Center, and Governor Pawlenty vetoed my health care before going out for a nice dinner in Washington, D.C. I never imagined Governor Pawlenty would delete me for budgetary reasons. I want to thank the legislatures who voted last Thursday to protect my health care. Now I want to ask them to keep that promise and vote yes again on the reformed GAMC bill. Thank you.
I'm going to open it up for any questions.
Commissioner Ludeman released some sort of a statement yesterday. He talked about being ingenious in trying to solve the problem based on the fact that the governor's vetoed it and maybe it won't get overridden. Do you have a reaction to his suggestion that you can be more creative in the way you solve the problem if the program gets canceled?
You know, I think the proposal that the legislature voted on Thursday received such significant bipartisan support because it included a lot of things that both parties were interested in. There's significant reforms in the GAMC bill. It's a program that costs significantly less going forward under this legislation than it does now. There's significant reforms to mental health, to the way the healthcare financing system works within GAMC. There's a lot of creativity in the GAMC proposal that the legislature voted in support of. And I think that's a big reason why it received such significant bipartisan support. So this is not a proposal that just maintains the status quo. It's a proposal that makes general assistance medical care more cost effective while continuing to provide good quality coverage for very low income Minnesotans.
How many times has the legislature overridden this governor? Once, right? How do you get this legislature over the hump? I mean, one time.
I think this is a unique situation in how overwhelming the support for this legislation was. We had 125 House members that voted in favor of this bill on Thursday, only 9 who voted against it. And that includes 38 House Republicans. Those individuals now are going to have the opportunity to vote again on the exact same legislation they already voted in favor of. And I think, part of our message here today is Minnesotans would like their legislators to hold to their word, continue to support something they've supported as recently as 2 days ago. So I think we feel optimistic that our state legislature is going to hold to their word and continue to support this legislation that they've spent so many months working on developing.
Do you have any idea when they're going to have the override vote?
We're hearing this week.
Are you?
We don't know. The timeline on this is urgent. The program goes away on April 1st. So a final resolution of this issue is needed as quickly as possible.
If all the Democrats vote to override the veto, how many Republican votes do you need?
In the House, we would, strictly speaking, need 3 House Republicans to vote in support of the legislation, 3, and we have 38 who have voted in support of the legislation already.
Have any of them indicated that they're going to vote to override at this point? Or?
I think they're all trying to assess the situation. I think they're home listening to some of their constituents. And I think they showed us once that they're committed to maintaining health care coverage, and I think we're optimistic they're going to maintain that commitment.
But their leadership has said Republicans aren't going to vote against the governor.
I think it's hard for us to imagine how that many House Republicans would change their mind on a piece of legislation they supported so overwhelmingly as recently as Thursday evening.
You ran phone banks before the vote on Thursday. Are y'all running phone banks now, having people call their legislators and tell them to vote for the override?
There are a lot of constituents who are contacting their legislators about this.
Is it organized?
There are some organized. There is some organized phone banking.
So you try to place thousands, hundreds of phone calls within the next 5, 6, 7
in the
days?
coming days, that's right.
Say again?
Yes, in the coming days we'll continue to have constituents all over the state of Minnesota contacting their legislators about this.
How many? I mean, what are we talking about in terms of your particular organized effort for getting phone calls made?
You know, that's hard to quantify. There's over 40 organizations that have been involved in this effort. I would say it is at least in the hundreds and possibly in the thousands.
You don't have to call the Democrats. They're with us.
Hey, Greta.
I'm Liz, by the way, not Greta. I'm Liz, by the way,
Liz,
not Greta.
My
yeah,
bad.
That's right.
The minority leader in the House, Kurt Zellers, you know, we talked to him, I think, last night about all this, and he said he felt like, some Republicans felt like that this bill short-circuited the process of negotiation, like they needed more time to keep ferreting stuff out. What's your response to that?
This proposal came out of a set of conversations that started last summer, and those conversations have involved all the House members, House Republicans and Democrats since last summer. So this was a very careful, deliberative process for putting this legislation together. We've known for months that this program would be eliminated in this spring, so there's no surprise there. And the urgency of the issue makes it critical that the legislature move forward once the session starts on something they've spent so many months putting together. Any other questions?
Someday Pawlenty and his family are going to probably, what goes around comes around. Someday Pawlenty and his family are going to have problems like this. And then they'll be out here wanting somebody to vote for something.
That may be true. Thanks very much.